Hey everybody, welcome back to High Temp Gaming. Have you guys been trying to find a way to get a little more performance from your GPU and your computer? Just don't really want to spend a whole lot more money on a new graphics card or having to upgrade your CPU just yet? Well, just stay tuned, you'll see exactly how we do it here. Alright guys, so let's actually talk about a couple ways you could increase your performance from your GPU as well as increase some performance on your computer without having to necessarily manually overclock, right? So this particular video that we're talking about is dedicated to those of you who are just now getting into PC building, or maybe you just finished building your PC and you want to find a way to be able to just increase some of that performance, right? So this is not necessarily for some of the veteran builders, even though if you guys are a veteran builder and you have some better ways to do it, please leave a comment below, let me know. I'd love to share on another video. So in this particular video, what we're going to be talking about is going to be somewhat of, I guess we could call it a overclock. We're talking about XMP, and we're going to be using a software as well to increase our GPU. It's called Afterburner, MSI Afterburner. So it's a really cool software. I use it to test some of the GPUs that I like to use. And the cool thing about this software is that it's free, first of all. And second of all, it's you really can't mess up your computer. Not necessarily, right? The BIOS in your motherboard is going to be, it's going to have built-in protection. So if you're pushing, voltage too far or temps too high up, 99% of the time your computer's just going to shut off, right? Or it's going to give you a blue screen, and all you have to do is just go back in, delete your MSI, re-download it, redo it again, or just reset the MSI Afterburner. So I like to use this software myself in some instances when I'm not manually overclocking, because it's really easy to use, especially if you're doing benchmarks, right? If you want to test your PC with 3D Mark or maybe Cinebench, or if you want to run Valley Bench, these are really good benchmark tests that I like to run, and you could actually have your Afterburner right next to it, and you could manually adjust it as you go, and you'll kind of notice when it just stops, right? Or you start getting some artifact and you start seeing just something different, or just powers down, right? Your PC just shuts off on you. And that's kind of how you know that you've pushed it to the limit. And this is a way that you can actually start getting the overclocking without having to go into the BIOS and start manually changing, your volts or any of those other things that you have to change. That could actually cause some issues if you don't know what you're doing. For this particular one, I want to start off with talking about XMP. XMP is Extreme Memory Performance, which gives you an opportunity to go to your BIOS and actually get the speeds that you paid for, right, when you bought your RAM sticks. Traditionally, if you have RAM and you buy RAM, let's say like this one, it's a 2 4GB sticks of 3000 megahertz Viper DDR4, right? If you plug this into your motherboard, you might be getting speeds of 2666 and you don't even know about it, right? And you're running it, or you see your BIOS screen pop up and it says 2666, and you ask yourself, well, how come my RAM isn't at its max? Or many times people think they got the wrong sticks or they were sent the wrong ones, when in fact that's not the case. You'll actually notice that is the max. There's a profile, there's an XMP profile set up within the motherboard that actually lets you run the speeds that you paid for. And I'm going to show exactly what I mean. You watched the last video that I did, which was called the best CPU for a $400 gaming PC. You'll realize I'm actually still using that same build. I'm still actually testing it and trying to push it to the limit. So this particular build here, I have 16 gigs of 3000 megahertz of RAM, Ryzen 5 1600. Just put the traditional stock cooler that comes with. Believe it or not, these Wraith coolers are actually really good. The Wraith Prisms are even better for if you want to do higher overclocks, but this will handle really slight overclock, especially what we're doing on MSI Afterburner. Shouldn't have any issues. But if you want to go higher, you want to do more overclocks and just get a better cooler, and an RX 570 GPU. So to go ahead and enable XMP, just go into your BIOS, right? Go into your advanced memory settings. I already have this one enabled here, but you're probably going to see, for the most part, something like this. It says disabled. It'll say 2667 or 2666, and then next to it, you might see it where it'll say 3000 megahertz, right? 1.2 volts. So ideally, this is here running it at, you know, a lower setting. If you go ahead and enable XMP, which is Extreme Memory Profile, it'll bump it up to 3000 megahertz, which is what you bought it for, or whatever RAM you bought. If you buy 3200 megahertz, it's going to bump it up to that particular profile. It's going to bump up the voltage a little bit, and you should be pretty good. You should be set, right? And then on this particular case, just save and exit, and then save and exit setup, and your RAM will be pushing exactly what you paid for to do. Let's talk a little bit about some of the performances you'll see. I'm going to show you a portion of that video from the last one on some of the frames that you'll see, and then it being changed to, you know, the XMP profile and showing you the increase in performance of the frames that we got. If you look at this particular build, you'll see that it's kind of just hovering around, you know, anywhere as low as it was 73, and the highest was like 82, right? And it just stays in that same exact frames. And this is playing on high and epic settings, right? So I'm going to show you now the difference with having that profile on. So it's an instant difference. I mean, just a huge performance booster. You know, lows were like 85s, and then highs are going to be, you know, 100, but it's going to stay around this 90, 93 to 100 range. I mean, that's a big performance jump going from, you know, lows of 75s to high and highs of 80s on the, you know, just running it at its standard stock RAM, and boosting up that memory to, you know, what is particularly capable of, whichever RAM you get, whether it's 3000 megahertz or 3200 megahertz. It's a quite a difference in jump for, you know, frames and just about everything else. So you can understand why, you know, RAM is so important, and making sure that you're actually getting the full functionality, the full speeds of that memory that you buy, because it makes a difference. So, you know, 71 to 90 to 100 frames is a pretty drastic jump. And even if you're getting only 10 frames or 15 frames, it's still really good. I mean, it's free performance, and it's definitely what you're paying for. So I definitely recommend, if you're buying RAM, make sure that it's clocked at its maximum potential, and not just at, you know, the factory setting with, you know, because you're just going to lose out on it. And in that particular case, if you look at the price of RAM that you're losing, you know, if you're running a 2666, then you might as well should have bought it at 2666, because you would have spent, you know, an extra $10 more or $15 more, depending on the make, to get that better RAM. So definitely go ahead and switch that profile, turn it on, and you're going to see some performance boost there. So I want to go ahead and switch gears to MSI Afterburner. I'm not going to go into specific details on, you know, how to really download. It's very simple. Just go to MSI.com, go to the Afterburner, go ahead and download that. It'll also have you download Riva Statistics Tuner, which looks like this here, and that's how you're able to run this software here. Once you go ahead and do that, come back to this video and I'll show you exactly how to set it up. So right now here, it's kind of set just at a basically stock setting, right? And before I actually do anything, I'm gonna go ahead and open a Valley benchmark, and we're going to actually benchmark it the way it is right now. We're going to run it, and I'll get back to it once it finishes. So here on the benchmark, you can actually set these settings up in MSI Afterburner too. You can see it's just running it right now, and obviously we know it's going to run it fine because it's stock. We haven't done anything yet at all. It's always good to set it. You want to be able to do a comparison of every single change you make, so you always want to run it stock first, and then continue, you know, to increase it as you can. So we'll see what our results are as we keep moving up. All right, guys, so we went ahead and ran this particular benchmark here. We got the frames of 74.7, score of 3127. We're actually going to bump it up now a little bit. We're going to go ahead and close this, and we're going to rerun it again. We're going to hit benchmark, and we're actually going to change this here. So you want to unlock voltage control, unlock voltage monitoring, and force constant voltage. These three. Also, on your fan, you want to enable user-defined software automatic fan. So I'm going to go ahead and actually set it at 50, and when it hits we'll do it at 50. We'll just let it just jump right up, right? We're going to apply that. We're going to have to reset it now, actually. So there we go. I put the span feed at 100. Obviously, we want to take that down a little bit because we want to see how hot we're going to run this here. A good safe bet, you never really want to get past, 85, 105 degrees Celsius is really where you want to run that. You want to run it any higher than that because that's really pushing it. And you'll be able to see it here as it goes up. So we're going to go ahead and bump up the temp limit to, we're going to link these two actually. And we're going to bump this up to 1098. And we're just going to keep an eye on it. Like it's holding pretty strong. Nothing really happening here. You'll notice if when you push it too far, either it's just going to crash altogether. You're going to start seeing some like artifacting or just some just weird situations happening. So right now it looks good, running 78 frames here on this benchmark, and the benchmark running is Valley benchmark. So I'm going to go ahead and bump it up a little bit more. So ideally you want to do one by one. If you really want to see the performance on it, you can do one run benchmark, bump this up, wait, run another benchmark, and then you can see the percentage of increase. But right now, put this power limit up. You'll notice these run together. I'm going to actually bump that power limit up to 90, and I'm going to raise the core clock to 1300 and the memory clock as well. And we'll see if anything changes. We're going to go ahead and hit the apply button. You can see it bumped up a little bit, heating up a little bit. And again, you can control your fan speed. You can set it like we had it, where if it passes 50 degrees, it goes straight up as it progresses. So we can see here our score is 3187. We're going to go ahead and close this, and we're going to run it one more time. And we still haven't even gotten close to maxing it out. We're going to go ahead and bump up the core clock to 1380. And we're going to leave the memory clock at 1400. But 1384. Actually, let's just keep it 1385. 1400s, we're going to bump that core clock to. So you really don't want to mess with the core voltage too much. I mean, you just don't want to be sending, if you're going to leave your settings to where you have them, you don't always want to be sending a ton of voltage to your GPU, especially if you don't need to. So that's why I'm not really messing with it too much. But you can still see we're having no issues here on the benchmark. So we're going to just bump it up another 100, another 50 to 1450. 1451, we're going to apply it, and we're going to see. So you can see here, just by adding, I actually bumped up the core clock 150 more, and we've gotten a much better, another 10 frames. And what we're gonna do, we're actually gonna bump it up. So if you look at it, the RX 570, they say a boost clock of 1475 megahertz and a memory clock of 2250. Yeah, I'm gonna stop that right there real quick. Just a quick intermittent situation. Yeah, that's on an 8 gigabyte card. This is a 4 gigabyte card. So scratch what I just said there. and you'll see what I mean. This is just a little spoiler of what happens when you bump it up incorrectly. So I'm going to go ahead and bump it up to 1475 and see if we could actually attain that boost clock of 1475 and then a memory clock of 2250, and we're going to see how it looks then. Let me take it back 5. So that's our score now. I mean, just a big jump. And we're gonna go ahead and apply it. And you can already see it already froze up here, so that boost clock's already giving issues. We're gonna bring it back down to the memory clock to 1957. Yeah, so that it looks like at 1475, I didn't even have to run the benchmark. You already saw. I mean, I can do it again so you can see what you're looking for. Actually, you know what? Here, I'm gonna do it again so you know what you're looking for when it starts to actually give you issues, right? So we put it back at what it says you can run it at a max boost of 1475 and memory clock at 2250. Watch this. Watch what happens to the and we're not even running the benchmark, it's just running it in the back end there, right? So we run it to 2250. I'm gonna hit apply and you'll see it just freezes. You see? So when that happens, you know that you have to just oh, and it just went down. So when this happens, I'm kind of glad this happened. When this happened, then you know you're just gonna have to turn it down some, and you shouldn't have any issues. So to be honest, I'm kind of glad this happened, just so you can see exactly how to fix this issue. So if this happens, don't freak out. Your PC's probably gonna just turn off, and if it does, just when it resets it, just bring it back down, reset it back, and then just leave it at the maximum that you had it on. In our particular case, it looked like at 1385, 1400, it was perfect, and a memory clock around 1900. And we're gonna do that one. We're gonna run that benchmark and see what it does for us, and then we'll try it again. All right, so we got it back on here, and you could actually see computer's still alive, right? No issues. It didn't fry. You don't have to worry about it. So it actually happened. It actually happened to me, you know. So it could. I'm glad it did, so you can see how to fix it. Just bring those settings back down. It looked like a really good settings where it was, you know, pretty safe to run. I would say stable. Stable is the best word to use. Pretty stable to run. Was about 1380 or 1400 megahertz, and I think that's pretty much where we're gonna leave it. We're gonna do it again. We'll leave the temp limit where it's at here. Fan speed around 50. We gotta just stop this steam for a second. And we're gonna bump this, let me just make sure. Yeah, it's all back on there. I'm gonna go ahead and bump this back up to 1380. Right here, that looked like it was pretty stable there. And then the actual memory clock, I'm gonna leave that at 1600. Right here. We're gonna go ahead and apply that real quick, and I'm gonna open up this benchmark one more time, and we'll see. And in this particular case, if it works without crashing on me again, then we found our sweet spot, at least for this particular setup. And voila, it just looks beautiful. I'm sure I could push it a little bit more, but that's just I'm gonna do that on my own time. I'm probably gonna spend another hour doing it. But I wanted to show you exactly how to do it. It looks fantastic. There's no issues. There's no blips happening, no artifacting, no tearing, no blue screen to death. So just so you can see, it runs perfectly fine. And actually, let's run the full test. When the test finishes, I'm gonna go ahead and turn the camera back on so you can see the results. All right, the test is completed, and it actually got really good score. And this is pretty much the max out from what we did in the prior one, but you can see the jump from original. So it's definitely worth your hour of time to play with the Afterburner. It shouldn't even take an hour, it should take 30 minutes. Just want to run a couple different benchmarks. Don't be scared of it, because like you saw it happen to me. If the PC crashes on you, it's not a problem. Turn it back on. and make it happen. If you notice, I don't have the startup clicked here, right? And the reason why I didn't is you could have it here, which means if you click this button, if you find the sweet spot, if you hit that startup, your PC is going to start with the particular settings you found. I didn't do it in case it crashes. I could just get back in and turn it off. But in the event that you do have it, just go into safe mode, delete Afterburner, and then you should be fine. No issues. All right, guys. So I hope you found that entertaining and educational. If for some of you veterans, if you stuck around this long, if you have other ways, or if you found a sweeter spot with this same particular build, please put it below. I love for everyone to get to see it, and then I'll play around with it too and see what I get from what you guys put down there. But it was fun making this video. I kind of just want to go over it because I get a lot of people asking me about overclocking and how should they do it, and I think this is a really good place for everyone to start, especially if they want to just get a little bit more performance out of their GPU and their computer, right? So the first thing is, if you're buying RAM, just make sure you're getting the max performance of your RAM. You can always see what your RAM's doing. You jump into your BIOS. You don't have to go into your BIOS, but you can always see what it's doing. And then for your GPU, just play around with it. Overclock your GPU a little bit. It's not going to hurt it. Again, with this particular software, there's a protection. As you saw, it just completely crashes it, stops it, and is protecting it from just really having severe issues. And again, we weren't even playing around with the core voltage. That's another thing you could do. If you get comfortable, you can actually start playing around with the core voltage, bumping it up a little bit if you like. So guys, I'm not going to hold you guys any longer. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, turn those notifications on for more tricks and tips for High Temp Gaming. See you next time.